Okay. So Hare Krishna, welcome to our level 2 Gita Gyan course. So let's begin with some Mangalacharan prayers. Om Agyana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurum Militam Yena Tasmei Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajadam Sahagana Raghunathanpitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatari He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vigna Vinasha Narasimha Iti Namane Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayatim Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Sri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanyam Ishwaram Om Tat Sat. So Hare Krishna everyone. So as I mentioned previously, we are going to look again at all the chapters of Bhagavad Gita, but I'm going to narrate a story for each of these chapters, depicting the glory of that chapter, what we get by that chapter, by just hearing the recitation of the verses, and what to speak of understanding that chapter, what we can get. Now, these stories are coming from the Padma Purana. There is a section in the Padma Purana called the Gita Mahatmya chapter. And here, basically, chapters 175 to 192, all of this from the Uttarakhanda of the Padma Purana. So here, it's basically a conversation which is happening between Lord Shiva and Parvati. So here, I'm just putting one of the parts of it. So Goddess Parvati was telling to Lord Shiva, my dear husband, you know all the transcendental truths, and by your mercy, I have heard the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. And then she says, oh Lord, now I long to hear from you the glories of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which was spoken by Lord Krishna, and by hearing which one's devotion to Lord Krishna increases. So then to that, Shiva replied to Parvati Devi, that person whose body is the color of a dark rain cloud, whose carrier is the king of birds, Garuda, and who is lying on Ananta Sesha, the 1,000-headed serpent, that's Sri Vishnu, whose glories have no limit, I am always meditating. So here we always see sometimes Lord Shiva is sitting in a meditative position, right? So here he is revealing what he meditates on. So that person who is lying on Ananta Sesh. So here I'm putting a picture. This is from a temple in Nepal. Forgot the name of the temple. It's a temple in Nepal. It's a very huge depiction of Lord Vishnu lying on Ananta Sesh. Very unique. You wouldn't have seen like this kind of depiction of how he's lying. Here's a more recent picture, right? You can see lots of garlands and all that. So Lord Vishnu, as we know, he's called Narayana. Narayana. Nara means man lying on seat. He's lying on something. So therefore Narayana means he's reclining. And who is he reclining on? He's reclining on Ananta Sesh, the multi-thousand millions of hooded serpent, who is none other than one of his expansions. So Lord Shiva continues, my dear Parvati, once, he tells Parvati a story, once after Sri Vishnu had killed the demon Mura, so Krishna is sometimes called Murari, right? So therefore, it's coming from the term, after killing demon Mura, he's called Murari. He was resting peacefully on Ananta Sesh, right, in Lord Vishnu in this form, when the bestower of all good fortune of the universe, Sri Lakshmi, respectfully inquired from him. So basically, it's a conversation within a conversation. Lord Shiva's conversation with Parvati, he is telling about another conversation which is happening between Lord Vishnu and Lakshmi. So Lakshmi is asking Lord Vishnu. So here's a picture of Lord Vishnu, Sri Rangam. This is the biggest temple in the world, Sri Rangam, where the deity of Sri Ranganath is there. Very, very huge deity of how he is lying down on Ananta Sesh. So what did Lakshmi ask Vishnu? But before she asked, Lord Vishnu said, my dear Lakshmi, she asked here, she was asking him about why are you lying here? Why are you lying here on this ocean so peacefully? Surely everything is happening by your energies, isn't it? So then Lord Vishnu continues to tell Lakshmi, yes, though I'm lying here, everything is being taken care of by my many, many different energies. And then after that, she continues, Lord Vishnu continues, my dear Lakshmi, I am not sleeping, but I am watching how wonderfully my energy is working. It is by this wonderful energy of mine by which I'm controlling all things and yet remain separate. So this is the amazing potency of the Lord, Achintya Shakti, where the Supreme Lord, he creates, he maintains, and he annihilates multitudes of universes, but he doesn't directly involve. All of this is being carried out automatically by his agencies. What are his agencies? Basically, his innumerable Shaktis. So in one of the sessions, we will talk about the Shaktis of the Lord, innumerable Shaktis. For my other group, we already discussed the Shaktis, but for this particular group, we will talk about the Shaktis in one of the later discussions. How that multitude of energies are working. And then he continues, and it is by the remembering of these divine activities of mine that the great devotees and yogis manage to free themselves from the wheel of birth and death and attain that transcendental nature of mind, which is eternal and free from all qualities. So Vishnu is saying, simply by remembering, understanding how my energies work, simply by remembering my activities, my divya, this verse in Bhagavad Gita, Janma Karma Chame Divyam, my activities and birth are all transcendental. So simply by remembering these, what happens? These devotees and yogis, they manage to free themselves from the wheel of birth and death. So this is one of the processes of bhakti. Smaranam, right? Shravanam is hearing, Kirtanam is chanting, and Smaranam, remembering. So by hearing, we can chant, and while chanting and hearing is going on, we will remember. So in this way, by hearing all these pastimes, about how the creation of the world takes place, about the energies of the Lord. All this is part of the Lord. It's non-different. The Lord, His name, His form, His activities, all are the same. They are all non-different. So any one of these we hear, we get perfection and attain the eternal abode. So he's saying simply by hearing them, right, they become free from the cycle of birth and death, and they attain my transcendental nature, right, which is eternal and free from all qualities. He says this also in the Gita. So then Lakshmi says, O controller of all things, you are the goal of the meditation of great yogis. Nothing can go on without you, and yet you are separate. You are the cause of creation, maintenance, and destruction of all the material universes. So Lakshmi understands this. Of course, she knows about the position of the Lord. So now she's asking, kindly inform me about the workings of your wonderful energies, which are so attractive. So like that, Lord Vishnu will continue telling Lakshmi all the wonderful energies of how it works. And then he says, my dear Lakshmi, the workings of my multifold energies and how to become free from the bonds of birth and death and attain my eternal nature can only be understood by one of pure intelligence, who has an inclination. And who is the person of pure intelligence? That means a person of Lord Vishnu considers a person of pure intelligence to be someone who has just an inclination to render service unto me. So such a person is considered by Lord Vishnu to be of pure intelligence. This transcendental knowledge, so only such people, that means only devotees or even those who have slight inclination towards the devotion towards Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu, only they can fully appreciate and understand and benefit from the Bhagavad Gita. So this is a secret. So therefore, it has to, even if people don't accept the Supreme Lord as the ultimate, at least theoretically they should accept and then move on with the Bhagavad Gita, and then slowly the faith will develop in their hearts, and then they can come to this platform. So this transcendental knowledge is fully explained in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So here is where Gita is being mentioned in the Padma Purana. And then he says, I myself have manifested in the form of the Bhagavad Gita. So here's another evidence to show that Krishna is directly the incarnation of the Gita. Please understand that the first 5 chapters are my hits. So this is where I found it, Dato. Last time you were asking me. There were the first 5 chapters are my 5 hits. The next 10 chapters are my 10 arms. And the 16th chapter is my stomach. The last 2 chapters are my lotus feet. In this way, you should understand the transcendental deity of the Bhagavad Gita. So as to how to make sense of this, first 5 chapters are his heads, the next 10 chapters are his arms and all that. I've not come across any explanation anywhere. But from what I see, it's possibly because the first few chapters are all giving direction. So what gives direction? The head, right? So when we look at something, we get direction. Like, remember I mentioned the Bhagavad Gita is like the compass, and then the ship, and then the journey in my last class in chapter 18. So like that, the head, we need the head to tell the body where to go, because on the head there is eyes, ears, and everything. So and thinking and willing is going on. So therefore, the first few chapters are all setting the direction, right? And chapter 5 is basically Karma Sannyas Yoga, or Karma Yoga in Krishna consciousness. So it is directing the persons towards ultimately devotion. So not Karma Sannyas, Buddhi Yoga. And then like that, so then the other next chapters are all the limbs which probably help to understand the goal of the, because you need the limbs to get there. So it's like the ship brings you. So chapter 6 to 12, remember I mentioned, is like the ship. It gives you the vehicle by which we can cross this material world. Okay. And then chapter 16 is the divine and the demoniac. So basically, what is digested and what is not digested. So this is my speculation. I'm just thinking, but I've not come across any other further explanation on this. So anyway, this verse is being spoken by Lord Vishnu to Lakshmi Devi. So in this way, you should understand the transcendental deity of the Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So then he continues, this Bhagavad Gita is the destroyer of all sins, and that intelligent man who daily recites one chapter or even one sloka or half sloka or at least one quarter sloka. Lord Vishnu is telling this to Lakshmi Devi. Even one quarter sloka, if someone recites every day, he will attain the same position as Susharma had attained. So this interest suddenly, Susharma, who is Susharma? So Lakshmi, purposely Lord Vishnu mentions this name so that Lakshmi Devi's curiosity will be aroused. So sure enough, Lakshmi Devi takes the bait. She says, who was Susharma? What class did he belong to? And what destination did he attain? So in this way, Lord Vishnu begins the narration about Susharma. So this is the first story in the Gita Mahatmya from the Padma Purana, glorifying the first chapter. Susharma, the bull and the parrot. So the story goes like this. Once upon a time, this was in a different yuga, there was a person called Susharma. Now this Susharma was a very poor Brahmana, and though he was a Brahman by caste, but due to bad association and all that, he had actually fallen down from his Brahminical situation, and his entire family was also fallen down with him, and they were doing a lot of non-Brahminical activities. They were not, in name only, they were Brahmanas. They were behaving very terribly. So they used to do a lot of sinful activities. Susharma with his family. So he used to go and he used to cheat people. He used to lie, and sometimes he will use his status as Brahmana to cheat people, right? So this is how he used to live. He was very wicked, and he was very sinful man. And he did not really have so much of knowledge, although he was born in a Brahminical family, right? And he took pleasure from hurting different people. So either by words or by deeds, he took pleasure in it. And he never engaged in the chanting of my names. Lord Vishnu will tell Lakshmi Devi, he never chanted my names, never. And he never gave charity, or he never received guests properly. So hint, hint, all this is important aspects. So what he says there after that, what he used to do for a living, he used to sell some leaves, get some leaves from the forest and sell it in the market. And in this way, somehow he will get some money by cheating or whatever, he will earn his living. One day, what happened was, while he was collecting some leaves in the forest to sell, he accidentally stepped on an angry snake. And then the snake bit him, and the poison entered into him, and he was not able to call out for help, and he died. So when he died, he was actually visited by the Yamadutas. Yamadutas are the servants of Yamaraj in very horrible form, and they dragged him and they brought him to hell. And then in hell, he had to go through all kinds of various punishments because he did not utilize his rare human life properly in attaining higher knowledge. Instead, he used it in a very sinful manner to attain what he desired. So he suffered in various places, various divisions of hell. And after many years of suffering, right, to clear all his sinful karma, after that, he took birth as a bull. So before he took birth as a bull, he was suffering in hell. Then he went through the different other smaller the lower species, and ultimately he came as a bull. Now, this bull, so this bull was bought over by a very wicked and miserly master. So he was a crooked person. Crooked means he was not very, he walked with a certain gait in a crooked way. And just like he was crooked, his heart was also not very pious. So he used to use this bull to carry a lot of heavy burden. He used to overwork the bull a lot. And this bull also, he had no other choice. So he lived his life like this for about 7 to 8 years. He lived in this way. And then one day, the load that he was carrying was so heavy and he exerted himself so much that he just suddenly collapsed on the floor like this. And once he collapsed, all the villagers nearby, they all rushed towards the bull, and they saw how this bull, after carrying so much of heavy load, working so hard, and then it finally collapsed due to exhaustion, their hearts were moved. Now, we know this is Vedic culture. The bull and the cow had a special place in the civilization at that time, right? So they naturally felt very compassionate towards the bull, and they came to the bull and they saw that nothing could be done for the bull. The bull was about to die. And out of compassion, all of them, they in those days, the culture was sometimes they feel compassionate. They will say, okay, whatever pious activity that I have done in the past few days, or whatever piety that I have collected, I give this piety to the bull. So there is, like, sometimes you can just say like that, or you can just think like that in your mind, and it's possible to pass the good credits of our good activities to another person. So this is an interesting information. It means that one's piety can be passed to another person, right? And in the same way, another person's sin can also be passed. There are ways to do that. Later we will talk about some of those ways. But anyway, it doesn't come into this story. So in this story, they passed this piety to the bull. Mentally and also by words and blessings, they all blessed this bull. And together with these villagers, there was also another lady. So this lady was a prostitute. So she was living in that village and she was a prostitute. And she also happened to come and she saw this bull and she saw all the other villagers also giving their blessings to this bull. So she also said, okay, I also, whatever, I know I'm a prostitute and all that, but still, out of compassion, something moved within her heart. And she just said, I also will somehow give you all the whatever piety I have, I share it with you, O bull. So she said that. Okay. So once that is done, this bull, which was previously Susharma, right, the Brahmin, he is now born as the bull. After he died, again he went to Yamaraj. So this time when he went to Yamaraj, Yamaraj told him, your sinful activities are all cleared. So there is no more sinful reactions to hold you in this Yamaloka, and you don't have to suffer also. You are now free to take birth again as a Brahmana in a good family. So in this way, Yamaraj dismissed this person, this soul. We'll call him Susharmala just because previously he was Susharma. So he dismissed him, and then he took birth as a Brahmana again, next birth, but within the same locality, within the same area. Somehow his fate, he took birth in the same area. And this time he took birth again in a very high class Brahmana family. And this time it was a good Brahmana family. They followed all the tenets of Dharma correctly and everything. And in that birth, he was somehow, due to the blessings that he has received from he doesn't know where, he has actually remembered his past life. And by the blessings of, one of the last things Yamaraj told him before he left Yamaloka was that Yamaraj told him, you're free. But then he managed to ask, how is it that I got free? And then Yamaraj told him, you got freed because there was one person, when you were a bull, when you died, that person gave her piety to you. And she was a prostitute, and she gave that piety to you. And because of her piety, you have now become free. So then in this birth, somehow this Brahmin is able to remember what has actually gave him that freedom from the horrible. He was able to remember his hellish life, all the sufferings that he went through, and he was a very different child. When he was born itself, he was very serious. He was very, he was determined to do something about never to go back to Yamaraj, right? But he didn't know what can be done. But he knew the story. So he made it, once he was a bit older, he decided, I will search out this prostitute if she's still alive, and I will find her somehow, and I will ask her what kind of piety that you did. If simply by passing a piety like that, I was able to be free, I want to ensure, this is like my insurance. I want to be sure that I don't go back to Yamaraj. So in this way, he set out from his home and he started looking for her. He knew which village to go because he remembered which village he died in while he was a bull, right? And then he went to the village and then he somehow searched out this prostitute. She was a bit older, of course, right? So many years have passed since that has happened. So she was older now. But somehow this Brahmana, he recognized her and he went to her and told her, oh, I need to ask you something. Previously, do you remember that there was once a bull who died and then you came and blessed that bull? Then this lady, she said, yes, I remember that. Yes, what about it? Then he said, I was that bull and I was supposed to suffer so much more. But somehow by your piety, I was freed and I got this birth. By the great blessings of your piety, I was able to remember my previous lives. So I want to know, can you please tell me, what kind of piety did you do that I was able to be freed from all this situation? And then that prostitute also was cracking her head. She was like thinking, I don't know, I'm a prostitute, you see, so I don't really have so much of piety under my credit. Then she's told, but possibly there's one reason. I have a parrot. I have a parrot with me, which I keep in a cage. And this parrot, it has a habit to every day he will say a certain hymn. He will say a certain something like a hymn, like a sloka, and in a very beautiful way. And I would be listening to this parrot's hymn almost every day, and somehow it will give me a lot of peace in my heart simply by listening to the way the parrot will say the hymn and everything. So maybe you should come and see the parrot. So then the Brahmana was, okay, I want to come and see the parrot. I want to hear what the parrot's hymn is. So when he came to the parrot suddenly, by some strange miracle, the parrot started to speak directly to him, not simply repeating something. He started speaking to this person. Oh, Susharma, the parrot said. And then he was surprised. How does he know my previous birth's name? So then said, suddenly, by the parrot said, simply by looking at you, my mind became awakened. There is some kind of a program in suddenly my mind became awakened and I'm able to remember my past life by this blessing. And I want to welcome you. So the man said, yes, please tell me. I understand that it was something that you were singing, which the prostitute, your mistress, heard, and it was due to that I was able to be freed from Yamaraj. Can you please tell me what you're singing? Then the parrot started singing the verses. It started with Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveda Yuyutsavaha Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kim Akurvata Sanjaya. If you remember, that is the first verse of the Bhagavad Gita. So like that, he spoke 46 verses. So, and then after finishing the verses, he told the Brahmana, somehow I'm able to remember my past life, and let me tell you what happened. Why am I in this parrot life and everything? So he says, the parrot starts speaking. Previously, just like you, I was also a Brahmana, but I was a very proud Brahmana. I used to be very proud, and I used to make fun of other people who are not so learned or who are not so great. And I used to, insult others. I was very expert in insulting people. I would be able to insult people in such a way that they won't even know that they are being insulted. So this was my specialty. And people used to call me just so that I can insult their enemies in a certain way. So, and I used to do things like this. So in my pride, I even insulted learned people. So, and I was also a very jealous person. So then he said, after I died, what happened is I was cast into different hells. Just like how you were cast into different hells, so was I. And after a long time of suffering, I somehow achieved the body of this parrot. And I was also able to remember a bit of my past life somehow, right? It cost me a lot of misery in a parrot life. And due to my sinful activities, my parents, my father parrot and my mother parrot, they died before even I was born. I was still in the egg. And then my parents died, and then the egg was there in the hot sun, and somehow I was hatched and I came out, and I was floundering about in the hot sand. The sand was scorching me here and there, right? Somehow by my feeble squeaks, I was able to attract a group of rishis, saintly people who were walking that way, and by their charitable hearts, they took pity in my condition, and they picked me and they brought me to their hermitage. So in their hermitage, they put me in a beautiful cage and they kept me on a tree. And then underneath, they would be every day reciting a certain hymn to a group of children. So like that, the children learn the hymn, and the children, while playing with me, they will also recite all the hymns. So basically, this was the Bhagavad Gita. I understood that this is the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So they used to say these Bhagavad Gita verses, and I used to learn them, and they used to teach me, and I used to learn them. And then eventually, I was stolen by a thief. A thief came into this ashram, and he saw me as I grew up to be a very beautiful parrot, thanks to the care and the administrations of the sages and the children. So the thief thought that he could sell me for a good profit. He stole me and he brought me away. And somehow I was bought by this prostitute lady, this person who has become my master. So and then in my loneliness in my cage, I didn't know what else to do, so that I will be reciting these hymns constantly. So in this way, right, Sri Vishnu tells Lakshmi Devi, what happened is this Susharma and the parrot and the prostitute, all three of them realized the great, wonderful blessings we can get simply by hearing the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. How they can be saved from so many sinful reactions, how mountains of sin can be cleared so that they can become free from all this. So after hearing this, they were thinking, my goodness, simply by hearing from a parrot, this lady, without even realizing her good fortune or without even realizing the meaning, she was able to accrue so much of piety that simply by giving her blessings in her mind, I was saved from going through all kinds of situations. Imagine how much I can gain if I were to study this chapter, if I were to read this chapter, if I were to recite this chapter constantly, if I were to live the instructions given in these chapters. So then what he did, all three of them, because their impressions were very strong, because they had actually suffered in hell and all that. So they know what is going to happen. So therefore they took it up all right, this is my goal of life. I know what to do. So they all three of them, they came and lived together in a hermitage, and all of them took turns to recite the Bhagavad Gita, memorize the Bhagavad Gita, especially the chapter 1, because they were always indebted to that chapter 1, which saved them. And in this way, Lord Vishnu says, what he says, he tells Mother Lakshmi, he concludes the story that in this way Susharma came to eventually Susharma, the parrot, and the prostitute, they purified themselves by reciting this first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Their hearts became pure and they all returned back to my abode at the end of their lives. So this was the story of Susharma, which glorifies the chapter. And after hearing this, this is, remember, being told by Lord Shiva to Parvati. He is talking about a conversation that happened between Vishnu and Lakshmi, and Lord Shiva is narrating the story. So Lord Shiva then tells Parvati, this is the Shruti Phalan. This is the fruit of hearing this story, and the fruit of also hearing the chapter 1 recitation of the Bhagavad Gita. So he says, anyone who recites, who hears or studies the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita will very easily cross over the ocean of material miseries and attain the service of the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. Right? So this is the Phalan. So there are some lessons which we can understand from this story, right? So probably some of you can add if you think of some, right? Well, one of the lessons is you will probably be struck about the situation of Susharma and how he had to go through different types of hell, and then after that he takes birth again. So the point here is justice can transcend lifetimes. So it's interesting to note that sometimes it's not within one life that one goes through the karmic reaction, right? It can go through, it can span several lifetimes. It can bring forward whatever actions that we do. We have to be careful because some actions can bear the result for several lifetimes, just like how Susharma had to go through several lifetimes. So we will hear about this when we come to the karma topic. We will discuss in detail about how justice actually transcends different lifetimes. And then another point is we can also understand is animal life is actually also part of that karma. Because animal life is not a happy life, not really. They live full of fear most of the time, right? They are always in terms of fear and everything. So it is actually clearing their karma, going through their karma. So after that, they will take higher births. So another lesson we could possibly understand from here is the culture of blessings. So how very important it is for us to attract blessings from devotees of the Lord. So that's why the Lord made it that way. So we have to, when we accept the Guru, directly we serve the Guru and we attract the blessings of the Guru. And in this way, the blessings of the Lord flows through the Guru. It flows through his devotees, and in this way it comes to us. So this is the plumbing system. The mercy or the kripa or the karuna which flows from the lotus feet of the Lord is channeled through his devotees. So that's why devotee association is very, very important. So the culture of blessings, you can see here how simply by a blessing that bull was saved, right? Especially what more to speak of blessings from pure devotees. Imagine Narada Muni's blessings or these kind of people's blessings. So that's why the culture in India is very strong, that whenever there are sadhus, there are, sadhus means holy men or holy or basically devotees of the Lord. Whenever they see them, they try to serve them or give them food. Or, here, it's not that they need the food. They come because they want to somehow pass some message or to give some nice lessons to the people who are living in the materialistic world. So that is the real purpose of the sadhus. They come to spread the word of the Lord. They do preaching. So culture of blessings is important. And then we can also understand there is another lesson, Agyata Sukruti. Agyata Sukruti means the blessings. Agyata means it's to get to be saved from hell is not very difficult. There are actually several ways which we can use to save ourselves from hellish situations, or from even clearing our sin. Now these special ways in which we can do that comes through generally 7 ways. There are 7 ways in which we can actually get these special blessings. So the first way is, for example, Bhagavad Gita. So the first way is Bhagavad Gita, like how Lord Vishnu says. Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, this is the first boat which can save us from this ocean of material miseries and bring us to Godhead. And it can save us from hellish situations. So that is the first boat. And these boats are what we call Agyata Shukruti. Somehow, even unknowingly or in some way in our previous lives, if we have taken advantage of any of these, even in a small way, it is because of this that we are able to develop some kind of devotion or some kind of bhakti for the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, it's not possible for us to develop bhakti for the Supreme Lord. It takes a very difficult situation. So these 7 boats are, number 1, somehow hearing Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam. The second boat is Tulasi Maharani, Tulasi Devi. Simply by worshipping Tulasi or going around Tulasi or doing arati for Tulasi or taking care of Tulasi, this is another boat of crossing this material ocean. So Tulasi story is another long story. We will save it for us another day. We will talk about Tulasi another time. The third boat is Ganga. So the holy rivers, especially the Ganga, Yamuna, Ganga, Narmada, Saraswati. Saraswati is no longer there now. Sindhu, Kaveri, so Sarayu. So all these holy rivers, especially aided by Ganga. So all these can, simply by worshipping with faith, these holy rivers, one can go back to the supreme abode. They are all devotees of the Supreme Lord. Tulasi is a devotee of the Lord. Ganga basically comes from the lotus feet of the Lord, right? So the third boat was Ganga. The fourth boat is Ekadasi. So I've already mentioned about Ekadasi in the previous classes, right? How by following Ekadasi Vrata very nicely with faith, one can transcend these 3 modes of nature and go back to Godhead also. That's the fourth boat. And the fifth boat is, actually that's the first boat, the main boat, that is Harinam. Harinam means chanting the names of the Lord, the names of the Lord. So simply by chanting and hearing and remembering the names of the Lord, one can go back to the spiritual world, transcend the world. One of the days we will talk about another story about chanting of the holy name. And then another boat is another boat that can bring us back and cross over hell and whatever sinful activities is Charanamrita. You know, if you go to the temples of Lord Vishnu or to Krishna's temple, Charanamrita is the water which is used to bathe the deity of the Lord, which has washed the lotus feet of the Lord. And this water they will contain and they will mix it with yogurt and a few other things and keep it in a pot. And then people who go to this temple, they can take a few drops of this water and drink it, right? Charanamrita, like that. So that Charanamrita, if we can somehow take Charanamrita all the time, it's another wonderful way of how we can cross over this material. Millions of sins are destroyed, and in this way our heart becomes purified and bhakti begins to blossom in our hearts. And the last boat is the devotees of the Lord. So the pure devotees of the Lord, they can also bless us, and in this way we can develop this. So we can take this Agyata Sukriti. Somehow, if in any way we have done some good deeds, some kind of seva which we have done for the pleasure of the devotees, or for Tulasi, or for Ganga, or for Ekadasi, in some small way, if we have done something, then in this life, we will develop that bhakti which will come in our heart. So this seed of bhakti is not ordinary. The seed of bhakti for the spirit, for the Supreme Lord, directly comes from the spiritual world, and it has to be planted by these by one of these books, right? That's the way it has to work. Okay, sorry. So that's the power of this of basically the 7 items which I mentioned. So today we are particularly talking about the Bhagavad Gita and the holy names. Okay, so now we will just go to the end of that story. So now we come to the conclusion of chapter 1. So we heard about the glory of chapter 1, Bhagavad Gita. We heard the story, right? And anyone who recites, who hears, studies the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, will very easily cross over the ocean material. I think somebody is not muted. Check. I'll just mute you, Mataji. All right. Okay, so let us just go through quickly this chapter 1 conclusions, right? So we heard about, if you remember from level 1, right? So chapter 1 started with Dhritarashtra's anxiety. How Dhritarashtra became very anxious because everybody was going to Dharma Kshetra, which is Kurukshetra, right? The place of pilgrimage. And this is a holy place, and he was scared that this holy place will affect the outcome of battle, or that the people or the Pandavas will not fight, or the Kauravas will not fight. He didn't want that. So he was very anxious, and he was asking, Sanjaya, please tell me what's going to happen. Have they gone to fight? So after that, we heard about how from this, we understood about Dhritarashtra's partiality, how he separated the Kurus and the Pandavas, how he was not being fair in his mind. So Dhritarashtra is called blind. He is blind from birth, both materially as well as spiritually. He could never understand the real position of the Supreme Lord Krishna, and he could never, he was always envious towards the Pandavas, and he was always supportive of the Kauravas, his own sons. Although by right, they were not supposed to be the kings. So in this way, he was always partial. And we also heard how Adharma, he was worried, right? So that's what we heard previously. And then in chapter 1, if you read the verses in chapter 1, you will find how Duryodhana's character was revealed. How Duryodhana is shown to be a very crooked person, right? Of course, if you read the Mahabharata, we know about Duryodhana, how he was always envious of the Pandavas, how he always tried to kill the Pandavas in different ways. He tried to burn them alive. He tried to give them poison. He would never dare to fight against them indirectly, because they were always better than him in every way, more powerful, more learned. And the Pandavas never bothered. Yudhishthira Maharaj, the leader of the Pandavas, he was always virtuous, and he was never vengeful, or he was never, feeling enmity towards anyone. In fact, one of the names of Yudhishthira Maharaj is Ajata Shatru. Ajata Shatru means Ajata. Jata means birth. Ajata, that means not taken birth. Who has not taken birth? Enemy. Shatru. Shatru means enemy. So Ajata Shatru means he whose enemy has not taken birth. So it's basically a glorification of Yudhishthira Maharaj, because Yudhishthira Maharaj never saw anyone as his enemy. He always saw everyone as, he has an equal vision, Sama Darshana. So that was one of the, so no matter what these people tried to do to him, he was always indifferent to them. He never harbored any ill feelings. Whereas Duryodhana was completely the opposite. He was always contriving, and then finally, after everything failed, he tried to cheat them from their kingdom. And even then, two times he actually did this. First, he somehow made Dhritarashtra to divide the kingdom into half, and he gave them a very a barren wasteland to be their kingdom. It's called Kandava Prashta. But by the virtue of the Pandavas and by Krishna's assistance, they were able to transform this Kandava Prashta into a very prosperous place, and its name was changed to Indra Prashta. So, and it rivaled even the capital city of Hastinapura, where Dhritarashtra and the Kauravas were living. So the envy became so great that somehow they thought, I must somehow by trickery, I must win this kingdom from them. So therefore, he forced Dhritarashtra, the father, the blind king, to invite them for a gambling match. He knows that if he invited, they will not come. Not only because they will not come because Duryodhana invited, but they won't come because the Pandavas will never accept gambling. Because gambling is one of the great vices, right? It is, and virtuous people never do gambling. So, but he thought, now Yudhishthira Maharaj has taken a vow to always follow the instructions of his seniors, of his superiors. So I will use this, I will manipulate his vow to ensure that this happens. So therefore he forced Dhritarashtra to give a command to Yudhishthira Maharaj to come and play, have a friendly gambling match. So then Yudhishthira Maharaj knew what was going to happen, but he could not go against his vow, and he will not go against virtue, because his virtue is, he is bound by the order of his superior. He's the king. Dhritarashtra is the king. So he was following the order, and he was also like a father figure for him. So therefore they came, and then they gambled, and then Duryodhana was delighted. He was reveling in wickedness, and he made them lose because he got Shakuni. Shakuni was his uncle, and Shakuni was expert in gambling. He has a special mystic power in which he could not lose. And the Pandavas knew this also, but they thought that they were expecting Dharma to be upheld. They were expecting the leaders and the seniors of the Kuru dynasty to stop it. But it never happened. Of course, this was all the plan of Krishna. He wanted it to go through like this, because while this happened, right, then what happened eventually, it led to the cause of the Mahabharata war. So anyway, in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 1, we can hear how Duryodhana was still crooked. He somehow, Drona and Bhishma were always righteous, but they were bought over by Duryodhana, because they somehow they were under the pay of Duryodhana. Duryodhana was maintaining them, keeping them, and giving them the salary and giving them food and everything like that. So and also Bhishma and all, they were bound by their oaths to the kingdom. So due to the oaths of the kingdom, they had to fight for the Kauravas, the Kaurava side. But Duryodhana knew that Bhishma and Drona, in their hearts, they always were supporting the Pandavas. And now that the war is starting, he saw how expertly the army was arranged by Dronacharya's disciple, Drupada. Drishtadyumna. So he said, your own disciple Drona, whom you thought, is now using your knowledge against us. He has now done this very nicely. So indirectly, Duryodhana is critically telling Dronacharya, don't be so open-minded or fair-minded and things like that. You are now working under me. You are fighting for me. Please ensure you do not give any kind of leniency. Please win the battle as quickly as possible. So in this way, he was trying to tell Dronacharya to not be merciful to them. Dronacharya he knew what was of course, Duryodhana, he said it in a very beautiful way. He didn't so directly say it. He's a very expert diplomatic person. But Dronacharya knew, because he's Brahmana, he could understand what he's saying. And he said he didn't bother about this. And then Bhishma Dev also, right? So we heard about how Drona was spoken to by Duryodhana, how Bhishma was reminded of his duty also. Duryodhana also had the gall to go and remind Bhishma to do his duty in a very indirect way. So Bhishma also was like, he said, I've already committed, I will do my duty, but don't think that you will win. Indirectly, he was telling the Duryodhana, you're going to lose. How he was telling Duryodhana? He took the conch shell and he started to blow to give joy. But simply by the use of the conch shell, he was reminding Duryodhana, the master of the conch shell is in the other side. So hint, hint for you, you're going to lose. But of course, Duryodhana, he never saw that. So in this way, if you read chapter 1, you will see how Duryodhana was very crooked in the way he was trying to manipulate and get his superiors to work for him to get him what he wanted. So this is Duryodhana's character. After that, we heard the signs of victory, right? How the signs of victory all favored the Pandavas, right? If you remember, the flag, the chariot, given by Agni, the bow, Gandiva, and then the name of the conches, the transcendental Divya conch, right? The transcendental conches, the conch sound which shattered the heart of the Kauravas. When Krishna and Arjuna blew their conch shell, it shattered the hearts of the Kauravas. So these are some of the, and the flag of Hanuman on the chariot, right? These are some of the signs of victory. So from here we can understand that Sanjaya was also indirectly telling Dhritarashtra, you will not, there's no hope for victory. This is Dharma Kshetre, and Madhava, who is the husband of the goddess of fortune, Krishna, he's on the side of the Pandavas. And on top of that, all the signs indicate victory on that side. So signs of victory were there: Dharma Kshetre, Madhava, chariot, Divya Shankha, the Hanuman flag, and Gandiva bow. So we've heard all this in level 1. So some of the lessons we can get from here is, number 1, adharma is never an option. That means if we are going to take up, there is no reason to ever follow the direction of irreligion or sinful direction. One should always, there's no good reason. One should always follow dharma in every aspect, right? So that is one of the morals here. So Duryodhana, he tried in so many ways to get what he wanted. And he used adharma, irreligious ways to get what he wanted. But in the end, right, here we can see, before the end itself, we can know the outcome. And in the end also, he lost his life, and all these people who supported him were killed. So viewing the army, after that, we saw how Arjuna asked Krishna, please bring me in front of all these people. Let's see who all have come to fight. So purposely, Krishna brought Arjuna and brought him right in front of Bhishma and right in front of Dronacharya. Because he knows these are the two people who will very much affect emotionally Arjuna. So now Arjuna is going to be put into illusion. And Arjuna saw so many people, all family members, father figures, grandfathers like Bhishma, teachers like Drona, uncles like Salya, brothers, sons, grandsons, friends, fathers-in-laws, friends, relatives, well-wishers, all of them from the same family, Kuru dynasty. And they were all arrayed opposite him, about to kill him. They were ready to kill him. So when he saw all these things, Krishna increased that pitch of sentimentality within Arjuna's heart, and he used this excuse to put Arjuna into illusion so that Bhagavad Gita can be spoken. So Arjuna was put into illusion. Arjuna Vishada, right? So then Arjuna starts to speak. He starts to tell about various reasons why he should not fight. If you remember, CESDI, CESDI, right? Compassion, no enjoyment, sin, destruction of family, and in chapter 2, indecision will come. That's the fourth reason, fifth reason. So he starts telling, right, how can I kill all these people? And all this we discussed already in level 1, right? He gave the reason of compassion. I cannot kill people. Why should I kill all these people, right? And why should I visit so much of violence to these people? So out of compassion, he did not want to do this. And then he also thought, what's the point if I win this war also at the cost of the blood of all these people? These are all my family members who want to fight with me. Never mind, let them keep their kingdom. Let me go. Even if they want to kill me also, it's okay. So in this way, Arjuna was thinking, there's no enjoyment I will get, even if I win this kingdom. And then he was also thinking about sin. He was very concerned about sin. And for that, he gave reasons. He gave the example of the destruction of the family. He talked about how destruction of the family can take place. So this is another lesson which we can learn. We can learn about what leads to adharma and the nature of illusion. So let's try to understand a little bit about Arjuna's arguments about the destruction of the dynasty. So he tells Krishna, I don't want to fight. Why? Because if I fight, so many people are going to die. All these kings, all these fathers, leaders, teachers, all the great personalities, they're all going to be killed. And when they are killed, now each of them have families. So when they are killed, the family dynasty is destroyed because all of them are left without any protection, right? The wives will be left widowed. The young children will be left without family, without parents. And when this happens, what will happen? When the family dynasty is destroyed, they become unprotected. And when they are unprotected, at the same time, these people are the great people who know so much of knowledge, so much of rituals, and so much of tradition is being carried out. When all this is wiped out, the traditions will also be abandoned. And together with the traditions, the knowledge, the culture, everything will be abandoned. And eventually, because they are left unprotected, unscrupulous people will take over them. Unscrupulous people will hijack these people who need protection. Who are these people who need protection? Mainly the women and the children. So because the family traditions are abandoned, the eternal family traditions, right? For example, worshipping of the deity, all the samskaras, the different samskaras, the marriage rituals, and all these things, if they're all abandoned, what will happen? The family falls into irreligion because they do not know what is right and what is wrong, what is dharma, what is the goal of life. So all this will be destroyed. And then when they are unprotected, the family is unprotected, unscrupulous people will exploit those who are unprotected, particularly the women and the children. So when the women are exploited, they become polluted in thinking and also in terms of activity. So as a result, what will happen? Varna Shankara. Varna Shankara means unwanted children, unwanted progeny. That means children who are born out of wedlock, children who are born without any kind of samskaras, children who are not taken care of properly, who are, given wrong ideas and wrong understandings. And this will bring rise to a whole new generation of adharma. This Varna Shankara population will increase and adharma will begin to increase all over the world. So this is Arjuna's basically his understanding of how adharma can profligate. So basically here we can understand that the whole point of this is to protect family tradition and to protect women and children. Just like how they say, in a family, it's like the wife or the mother is like the kudumathukku kuttu velakku, like that they say in Tamil. So like it's like the soul of the family, right? And this needs protection. It's like the jewel, just like the jewel needs to be protected, and they need to be the protection that is meant here is not only physical protection or mental protection or emotional protection. It also means cultural protection, to understand that they should understand what is the correct culture, what is the spiritual culture. Because in those days, spiritual culture was passed down from the Brahminical path, from the men usually. So and the ladies, they don't, in those days they don't really study the scriptures. They have different roles to play. So therefore the roles of society was very well divided in those days, and there was never conflict, and there was never confusion or problems. So then this is what happens when traditions and family things are destroyed. So Arjuna, it has truth in what he says, right? But he's fundamentally flawed. There is one fundamental misunderstanding which Arjuna had, which later Krishna in chapter 3 corrects. He defeats, Krishna will defeat every argument that Arjuna will give, right? About the argument of compassion, Krishna will talk about Atma, the soul, right? You're not really killing Arjuna. The soul lives forever. So like that, he talks about the first point. So like that, every other point, he will give his rebuttal. And then for this point also, he will give his rebuttal. What is the rebuttal? This is the rebuttal we will find in Bhagavad Gita 3:24. Utsideyur ime loka nakuryam karma chetaham sankarasya chakarta shyam upahanyam ima prajaha. If I did not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put to ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all living beings. So Krishna is practically repeating almost the same excuses or the same statements which Arjuna gave in chapter 1. Arjuna gives, right? He talks about unwanted population, Varna Shankara, right? So the same thing, Sankarasya, right? Krishna is also saying the same thing here. He's telling Arjuna indirectly, it is, yes, you are right that the destruction of the family dynasty is a reason for basically the bad population to come, right? But actually, what is the family's dynasty doing? The family dynasty is to pass down good aspects, is to pass down samskaras, is to pass down scriptural knowledge or scriptural conclusion, right? That is the purpose of the elders of the family, to pass down scriptural injunctions and to ensure that the family members follow this correctly. But you see, Arjuna, what happened in the Hastinapura when you were going through your gambling match? So due to the gambling, what happened in the center of civilization, in the center of the world, what happened over there? So if you remember what happened over there, the gambling match took place. The Pandavas lost their kingdom. They lost themselves also. They started staking themselves, because Duryodhana kept asking, what else you've got to stake? What else you've got to stake? So then they will say, I'll stake my kingdom, I'll stake this, I'll stake that. Then finally they have lost everything. Yudhishthira Maharaj will say, I'll stake myself. And then he lost himself also. Then anything else you've got to stake. Then he was looking up at Dhritarashtra and he was looking up at all the Kuru elders, but none of them spoke a word. And then out of despair, he said, I will stake my brother Bhima. And then he was lost. Then out of that, I will stake my brother Arjuna. So like that, one by one, all the brothers was lost. And then still, he was looking up at Dhritarashtra and looking up at Bhishma and all these people, but they didn't say a word. Bhishma wanted to, but he didn't want to cross Dhritarashtra. And Dhritarashtra was the king. It was under his command. But Dhritarashtra didn't say a word. And then finally, Karna gave the idea to Duryodhana, why don't they take Draupadi? So then they take Draupadi, and Draupadi was dragged, and they lost Draupadi also. And Draupadi was dragged into the assembly. Karna told Duryodhana, go and why don't you bring her? She rejected all of us. Now let her be embarrassed now in public like this. So they dragged Draupadi and they insulted her, and they wanted to disrobe her. Dushashan, the brother of Duryodhana, went to pull her sari. And in this way, we know what happened at that time. Krishna intervened and Draupadi was saved. But because this happened in the center of civilization, imagine like in the most advanced civilization in the world, and in the most advanced civilization, they had their like a parliament. It's like the hall, the court. And in that court, which is famous for all kinds of justice, right? In the center of that court, Draupadi is being disrobed in public. So when that happened, that is the excuse Krishna took to create the Mahabharata war and kill all these people and re-establish religion. So, and therefore we can understand Krishna is telling Arjuna, it is not you're talking about family dynasty, right? What family dynasty was there during the time when Draupadi was being disrobed in public? What samskara you were following? What samskara were all the elders of the Kuru dynasty which you were trying to save and protect? What were they following? So dharma is already lost. So killing these people is not going to make any difference, right? Dharma is already lost. In fact, killing these people and re-establishing Yudhishthira Maharaj as the king will ensure that dharma is protected. So therefore, he counters Arjuna. And then he tells, in the same way, it is because of, if you do not fight only Arjuna, if you do not fight and re-establish dharma, then you will really be the cause of unwanted population. That will be the real cause of the destruction of the family dynasty. That will be the real cause of the pollution of the women and the children and the dharma, and the rise of Varna Shankara, the unwanted population. And because of unwanted population, this population will create, because they were brought out of samskara without any proper education and understanding, they will rise to do all kinds of ill activities. It's called Ugra Karma. All kinds of Ugra Karma or ill activities which are meant to destroy society even further and bring entire society towards hell, because they do not know what is right and what is wrong according to scripture. So this is what is happening nowadays in Kali Yuga. We can understand it's already like that, right? But that's the nature of Kali Yuga. But this was at the end of Dwapara Yuga, so it was not yet the time for this to happen yet. So Krishna told Arjuna, therefore fight. If you don't fight only, you will be the cause of unwanted population. So this was the nature of illusion. Illusion or Maya can cause the opposite to be what we think it is real. It will cause adharma to look like dharma and dharma to look like adharma. So Arjuna was thinking doing this activity of not fighting is actually dharma. He was thinking that way. So this is what will happen to majority of the people in this world in Kali Yuga, as per the prediction of Srimad Bhagavatam. People will think dharma is adharma and adharma is dharma, because nobody is actually following the guidelines of scripture according to the parampara, according as it is meant to be heard. All right, so then in chapter 1, we also hear about the qualifications of a disciple, how a disciple should be. Someone who is ready to hear Bhagavad Gita should have the qualifications which Arjuna had, for example. What were the qualifications Arjuna had? He was very much concerned about dharma. He wanted to uphold dharma. And he was very worried about sin. He didn't want to do sinful activities. And he was also very compassionate. He was not wanting to create problems for other people. Very different in character to Duryodhana. If we've heard in the same chapter only, Duryodhana's character was revealed. But in the same chapter, we also see Arjuna's character is being revealed. Even under illusion, he was still only thinking about the welfare of other people, not about his own selfish desires. So this is also a nature of an ideal disciple. So one who wants to fully get the benefit of the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, we should cultivate these good qualities within ourselves, right? And then we can appreciate this better. Okay, so now it is 9. It's extended a little. If I can just take another 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes of your time, I'll just quickly go through. I was talking about these good qualities, right? I just want to talk about one of those good qualities. So there are many good qualities, but these good qualities can be categorized. If you talk about dharma, they can broadly be categorized into 4 qualities. So we call them the 4 pillars of religiosity or dharma. Now, if we want to, any religion in the world or any kind of real religion in the world has to be built based on these 4 pillars. Now, dharma in Vedic tradition is represented as a bull, a pure, spotless, white color bull, white as the white lotus, described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And this bull stands on 4 legs. So these 4 legs are the 4 pillars of dharma, the bull. So without these 4 legs, there is no such thing as religion. It is simply cheating the people and things like that. So, and that's just the basic. These 4 legs are just the basic aspects of religiosity, so that one can, from that platform, go higher into bhakti. So bhakti has to stand on this 4 dharma. Every other religiosity has to stand on these 4 pillars. Now, what are these 4 legs of dharma? So these 4 legs of dharma are satyam, saucham, daya, and tapah. So satyam is truthfulness, saucham is cleanliness, daya is mercy, and tapa is austerities. Right? So we won't talk about the rest of them. We will talk about only one of these today. Now, in Kali Yuga, in every yuga, one of the legs of this dharma is attacked. So like that, there are 4 yugas, right? Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. So similarly, there are 4 legs. So in the Satya Yuga, all 4 legs were very healthy. And then in Treta Yuga, one of the legs is being destroyed. And then in Dwapara Yuga, 2 legs are being destroyed. And in Kali Yuga, 3 legs are already destroyed. The 4th leg is now being destroyed. So what is remaining in Kali Yuga? Saucham, Daya, and Tapa are all destroyed already in previous yugas. That means cleanliness and Daya. Daya means mercy or compassion. So because mercy and compassion is no longer there, therefore you can see all kinds of horrible things happening in this world. All simply out of greed. Last time there was compassion to balance the greed, but anger and greed was at least balanced by compassion. Now compassion is gone mostly to majority of the population of this world. So greed and anger becomes very strong. So horrible things are happening in this world. Saucham, cleanliness of mind, intelligence. So people think all kinds of horrible thoughts. They do all kinds of horrible activities without any measurement of cleanliness, right? And austerity, the ability to remain austere, the ability to sacrifice. This is also pretty much lost in this Kali Yuga. It's there here and there, but in general, it is lost. And what is left is standing is just 1 leg, Satyam. In Kali Yuga, as Kali Yuga expands, that also will be destroyed eventually. So the rest of it is very difficult now but Satyam can still be upheld. So what is this Satyam? In the Mundaka Upanishad 3.1.6, it says Satyam or truth alone triumphs. So alone, Satyam alone at the end of Kali Yuga will re-establish all the other four links of religion. Now, Satyam can be destroyed in Kali Yuga. What is Kali Yuga using to destroy Satyam? Truthfulness can be destroyed by one very powerful activity. Of course, if we lie, if we speak lies, lies destroys truthfulness, right? That's obvious. But there is one activity which will cause people to to lie very much. They become compulsive liars. What is this one activity? This one activity is called gambling. So when one indulges in gambling, right, then lying, truthfulness is destroyed. So we may ask why. So gambling here refers to basically, the traditional idea of gambling. Yes, gambling with money. So it's not just money, gambling with resources. That means resources can be money, can be time, can be anything which is precious for us, right? So that is gambling. Sometimes we gamble with our life, we gamble with our family members, right? So just like how we heard in the Mahabharata story just now, gambling was the root of the destruction of the entire dynasty. So Satyam, which is one of the gold links of Dharma, gets destroyed. So hypocrisy is also gambling. That means we say one thing, but we do another. So that is also destroying truthfulness. So gambling, hypocrisy, cheating, right? All of this comes under the aspect of gambling. So here there was an interesting statement by a psychologist about gambling. The interesting thing about gamblers is their manipulation, and how they manipulate is different than most people. They live a life of manipulation. So they like to manipulate people, manipulate activities. So what is the weapon of manipulation? It is lying, isn't it? True untruthfulness. So in this way, a compulsive gambler will say anything and everything to do what he wants. So that is very dangerous. So this is one of the practical aspects of spirituality which we can practice. So as devotees, as those who are serious into spiritual life, they will avoid gambling. So gambling can also involve, things like lottery, toto, speculation, business speculation, high risk business speculation. If it is low risk, at least it's a low risk is all right. But if it's a high risk speculation, which will involve, because gambling will affect not only ourselves, it will affect other people also, family members and things like that. It is a continuous effect. So devotees or those who are serious in spiritual life, yogis, not even to the aspect of yogi, just a normal person who claims to be religious, he will avoid this activity of gambling, right? Because it destroys truthfulness. So we know the story of how Draupadi was dragged into the assembly. This is one of the ills of gambling, right? This is a picture to show, one of the pictures to show how Draupadi was brought in. So in this way, there are four legs of Dharma. So we will talk about the other legs in another class. So we can end here. Thank you very much for your attention. Okay, so this is the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. Of sacrifices, I am the chanting of the holy names, japa, food for the soul. So we have to give food for the soul. One of the bhakti activities, remember the 7 boats, right? So this is one activity which we can do every day, regularly. Chanting the Bhagavad Gita is very good. We do every day. But specifically in Kali Yuga, the Yuga Dharma is given to us as the chanting of the holy names. We can read Bhagavad Gita every day also, but we should also chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Because to read Bhagavad Gita, sometimes we need to sit, we need to have the book with us. But chanting can be done not necessarily when we are sitting, right? When we are walking also we can chant and things like that. So it's something more practical for us to do every day without fail. So if we can do this every day, then that will be very, very powerful. So Harinam, one of the boats which can bring us to the Supreme Lord. So let us chant this Maha Mantra together 3 times. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama
Hare Hare.
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare
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 Hare, Hare
Rama
Rama,
Rama Hare Hare
Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for chanting with us. So with that, we end today's session. Any questions from anybody?
Prabhu,
Yes, Mataji.
Prabhu, just now you were mentioning about the 4 pillars of religiosity or dharma. What the Satyam, Saucham, Daya, and Tapa.
Yes.
Saucham is more of the cleanliness and austerities, so is it?
Saucham is cleanliness. Tapa is austerity. Sacrifice and austerity.
Sacrifice and austerities.
Yes.
That means in Kali Yuga, there is no tapas, is it?
Not really. There is, but because in previous ages, people were able to sit, they were able to meditate for thousands of years. Nowadays, we can't do that. So we cannot even, one of the simplest things to do is to chant Hare Krishna. So not many people are able to do that also. So that is also tapa, austerity. So like that, there are different, like how much of time do we dedicate for spiritual activities in one day? We have 24 hours. How many minutes is that? How many seconds is that? And how many days in a year? So if we actually look at it, right, in terms of ratio, very, very small amount we are able to dedicate. So therefore, people nowadays also, especially the new generation, they don't really understand the meaning of sacrifice. They want instant gratification. They want to eat something, snap their finger, grab comes. They don't know about working for things. They don't know about slogging or getting it out of sacrifice. So that is an aspect which is not there in Kali Yuga.
Yes, true. Correct, yes. Prabhu. Then the Saucham, Daya, and Tapa is not totally out in Kali Yuga. There are certain people still following this dharmas, right?
Yes.
Kali Yuga.
What I mean is,
right?
in general, 90% or 99% of the population in the world will not have this, or even if they have, they will not have in large quantities. Sometimes they have some mercy is there, but to what extent are they going to, because, for example, everybody eats meat most of the time, right? And all kinds of animals are being killed. So many things are happening. So therefore, we can say that in general, the amount of daya, tapa, saucham is very much reduced. Very hardly you can find. Yes, it is there. Some people have it still. And especially those who follow Sanatan Dharma, we need to cultivate this. So we need to develop these habits and develop these ideas and try to practice this within our life. So this is practical spirituality. We should somehow inculcate this within our life and teach ourselves to work on this.
Okay. Thanks, yes. Prabhu. And another thing is during the Krishna time where Krishna was explaining to Arjuna about the adharma, the ugra karma and all that. You see, that time Krishna was there, he was able to stop and uphold the dharma. But now it is happening, lots of adharma is taking place, ugra karma is taking place, lots of, a lot of unjust is taking place in this world. Why can't Krishna come and help?
Yes.
Lots of,
yes. Yeah, I understand.
children, especially lots of women and children are being raped, killed, Why
Yeah.
Krishna is still hiding? Why Krishna is gone? Why is he not doing, what we want? It should be done. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, Yuga Yuga Dharmascha. Where's the verb of the Krishna? Why he said this word? Why doesn't he come? Why don't he come now?
Yes.
Lots of
Yes.
unjust is taking place.
Correct. So it's like in previously it's Dwapara Yuga, and now it's Kali Yuga. So we have to understand the purpose of the Lord. So the Kali Yuga, the Yuga is especially meant for all these things to eventually happen. So, just like how so many cows are being killed, Krishna loves cows, but how is he allowing these cows to be killed? So one understanding is people who kill cows, they take birth as cows and they themselves get killed. So they go through their karma. So it is who is doing all these things, who is causing all these things. Ultimately, we could say that yes, if Krishna wanted to, he can stop it. But we have to understand what is the purpose behind this material world. The purpose behind this material world is like a prison. It is not meant for us to enjoy and live in this love. So for that, there was other yugas. Satya Yuga, okay, they enjoyed and they had a wonderful period of time and everything. And then they had Treta Yuga. So Krishna doesn't want us to remain in this material prison. He wants us to come back to us, come back to him. So therefore, he makes things a little tougher so that when things get tough, we start thinking of the Lord. Most of the time when I ask everybody, when we are happy, how much do we think of the Lord? When things are sad, things are disturbed, when things are going fine, nobody really comes and says, oh, everything is so wonderful. Why don't we build a temple? Why don't we worship this festival in a very nice way? Nobody thinks like that. But when bad things are happening, then why is Krishna not coming? Why is Krishna not doing this? So sometimes people think in that way. So therefore, one of the reasons is we have to, when situations become harder for us to bear, then our minds move automatically towards the Supreme Lord. The surrender becomes greater. So it is meant for us to surrender more and more to the Supreme Lord and then go back to Godhead. That is one explanation. There are other explanations to this. So in order to fully understand the plan of the Lord in Kali Yuga, that one I will need another entire session. We will talk about it in one of the days, right? So, but ultimately, short answer, right? It is all part of the plan of the Lord. And if we have taken birth in Kali Yuga, that means we are also very sinful and we are undergoing this. So if at all anybody is going through horrible situations, horrible miseries and everything, rest assured that they were all deserving. We could also say, right, in hell, people are also suffering in hell. So why is Krishna not saving the people in hell? So what about hell? If earth is also in the same idea. So the answer is Krishna is helping. Krishna came 5,000 years ago and he gave the Bhagavad Gita and he told everybody, look, give up all these things, follow the Bhagavad Gita, and you don't have to take birth in this hell. You don't have to come back to Kali Yuga. And then some people followed, some people didn't want to follow. And then he came 500 years ago as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he told everybody, right, chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. It's difficult for you to surrender. Okay, I will teach you how to surrender. I will show you by my own example how to surrender. And then he gave examples. Some people followed, they were able to be liberated. Some people didn't follow. And these people continued to take birth again and again. So it's ultimately our choice. It's ultimately our choice. Do we want to take birth again and again and again, or do we want to go back to Godhead? Right? So that's the idea.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay.
So painful to see the world is suffering with sickness and people are, so acting so adharma,
Yes,
lots of things.
it's happening,
really
and
very
Krishna will come. Krishna has come. He has come as the holy name. That's why I mentioned in the previously. He has given us the rope. Okay, we are in the well. We are in the darkness of this well. We want to escape. We cry, help, help, help. And then Krishna comes. It's like this. It's like a story. There was one person. in a flood. There was a flood. People told that there will be a flood. Why don't you leave your village and go away? Evacuation committee came, but this person didn't want to leave. He said, I want God to come and save me. I have faith in God. I will not leave. So then everybody left, and then the flood came, and then everybody went to the roof. And then they asked, there was a boatman. The boatman came, I come into the boat. I will save you. We can all escape from this flood. And then the man said, no, I don't want to go in your boat. Your boat doesn't look very nice. I will wait for God to come and save me, because he promised, So then after that, then the helicopter came. Then he still didn't want to go into the helicopter. Then finally they all left, and the flood came all the way to the top, and he eventually died. So, and then when he went back to God, God said, I sent my messages to you. I told my people to come and save you. You were so very proud. You didn't want to come and get saved. You wanted me, myself, to come and save you. But you don't have the bhakti. You don't have the surrender. But you still want. Yeah. So like that, we have to understand Krishna has given his message. He comes once in a day of Brahma. In every yuga, he comes personally. Even to be in the presence of Krishna, we have to have that Agyata Sukriti. It's not ordinary people Krishna kills. Even the demons who are killed by Krishna, they are not ordinary people. They have gone through so many Sukritis in their past life to take birth. So we have to be really special in order to get directly Krishna's association. And anyway, he sends his representatives. The Sampradaya is there. He has sent Madhvacharya, he has sent Ramanujacharya, he has sent his Sampradaya, and all of these people, the teachings are there coming through the Guru disciplic succession. So we have to follow and we have to take. So when things get sudden, when things are fine, we don't follow. And then when things get hard, that time it's a bit, we need to spend our time digging the well. We cannot say that when the fire starts burning the house, that time only I will dig my well, right? We have to dig the well in preparation for the fire. We know already this world. Bhagavad Gita says, Dukkalaya Mashashvatam. This world is a place of misery. We know already. The Vedas tell us, but we are not interested. We still want to remain and we still want to enjoy somehow in this world. So therefore, Krishna in different places, he says, this place is going to be like that only. Start digging your well now. When things are happy, when things are good, start investing in spiritual life. So that's what Krishna's message is. Do not wait until it is too late. When it's too late also, it's still possible. We can still surrender to the Lord if we have that faith. It just takes a second to surrender. But most of us are not in that level. So therefore, while things are happy, when we are still in, at the time of death, we change our consciousness, right? So let us not wait for that time of death. Let us, while we are alive now, perform devotion, bhakti, so that at the time of death, we can think of Krishna. So that's the understanding.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
And then Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu,
So,
one more thing. Prabhu, one more. Don't
yes.
mind? Remember you were telling about Adi Bhautika, Adi Devika, and Atmika, right?
Mm-hmm.
This Bhautika is more of
Misery
pain inflicted by another person, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So Atmika is within our infliction within ourselves, right?
Yes, within our own mind.
Yeah, mind. Devika is by the curse of of the nature. But how about infliction of pain caused by animals?
That's also Adi Bhautika. But Adi Bhautika means other living entities.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
Animals also comes under this because there will be snake bites, crocodiles follow, tiger, there is one case, tiger, one fellow fell into the tiger rock and died, So he comes under that Adi Bhautika la.
Yes. So there is one.
Thank you. Thank you.
There is one question here. I will just in the chat. I will just read out. What happens to Sanjaya and Dhritarashtra when the battle finishes? Well, nothing happens to them because they are not in the battle. Sanjaya and Dhritarashtra are away in Hastinapura. But Srimad Bhagavatam tells what happens to Dhritarashtra towards the end. So it's a story. Dhritarashtra, he stays there, and then eventually he also gives up everything, and then he takes the path of the jnana path. He doesn't take the bhakti path. Even after hearing Bhagavad Gita, he takes the jnana path. The reason for that will be explained in Bhagavatam also. One day when we talk about Bhagavatam, we will explain this point. Okay, Prabhuji. And then there is any more questions from the chat? Okay, there is one question by Dato. If we give a child instantly, child will appreciate initially, but the appreciation is not good. So is God, he will come. Okay, it's a statement. Anyone wants to say any comments? Yes, Dato, you're saying something.
It's not me. I think somebody else.
Oh, okay. Okay. If there are any other questions, otherwise, Ram Gopinath Prabhu, you want to say anything?
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. So if there are no other questions, then we can end here. If you have any, you can also post in the chat. I will send the quiz after this. So thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
And,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.